Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, depending where you are when you are going to watch or listen to this vlog or podcast. Today, we have a special guest in a way because of what she's doing. Now, every single guest we have, it's special in his ways. Today, we have Satinder Panesar, and I'm going to let her share a few things about her and about her expertise because it's awesome. So Satinder, welcome to the Whatswhat interview. If you can share with us a few things about you and about what you do in a daily basis.
Okay. Thanks very much, Bogdan, for this opportunity. I'm delighted to be speaking to you today, and I'm delighted to be having all these listeners listening to us. So I guess what's made me smile, just to start off with, is this is not my first career. My first career was in manufacturing and business management. So that was my first career. So very, very different. And you know, Bogdan, I always used to get told off for speaking to the customers too much or always caring about what the customers thought. And I always used to get told off for that because I was really interested in customers. I was interested in their lives. And actually, it dawned on me I probably was in the wrong job at that point. So my career started quite randomly, actually. You know, I was looking for when you have a bit of time and you want to do something different. So I started looking for an evening class and I started thinking, what else could I do? And I was thinking along the lines of like pottery or glass making or something like creative or artwork, something like that, going to an art class. So that was what my thoughts were, but it just didn't go down that route. Because so what I ended up signing up to was a listening skills class, listening stroke counseling skills class. And it was just a one-off. It was random. So anyway, I went along to that. And of course, when I got there, I thought, I just love this. I just really love this. I'm really good at it. So that's how it all kind of started. And then it progressed from there, or when I started to think about, well, actually, I'd like to do a bit more in this area of work. And what happened afterwards, I started looking for different voluntary positions in an area of listening. Because in my other job, I was getting told off for listening too much and caring too much. So I thought, maybe I might be good at this. Maybe I might be good at this kind of stuff. So I eventually signed up very randomly. It was an invitation to a voluntary volunteers recruitment thing, and it was a sexual trauma organization. And actually, I mean, this is me looking for something to do in my spare time. This is me looking to do something that's not heavy, that's just light, because that's why I was looking for something like pottery or something like art to help me. But no, what did I do? I signed up to this sexual trauma charity, and that's how my whole career began. And from there, I really got the bug. I got the bug to want to care, to make a difference in people's lives. And I knew I was a good listener. I knew I really cared. You know, anything I do comes from the heart and I'm genuine. And I just think there's a lot of people out there that really struggle with life and struggle with mental health. And so I guess initially for me, it was about making a difference in somebody's life. And that's how it all started, was from that initial evening class that I went to. And then that opportunity of a charity to do some volunteering work. And by the way, I never got into any kind of art. I never did. I still to this day have tried to, do painting or some kind of art, but it's just never, it's not me. I haven't got a creative side. So that's how it all started. Yeah.
When you've mentioned the mental health, and I start smiling because where I coming from, mental health, it's let's say it's a new thing now. It started maybe 5-6 years ago. But when I'm looking behind the mental health, it was only one way to solve the mental health problems for children, and that was two slaps, and all the mental issues were sorted. But now it's a different.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because I can really relate to that, because in certain communities, and I come from a South Asian community, in certain communities, mental health is not even, it's not even looked at. It's almost like you get on with it. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. Just get on with it. And if somebody does have, and I say, and I go, and I really understand it coming from the community I come from. So if something does happen in a family situation, or it's a trauma, or even, I mean, I particularly work with sexual trauma, but if it's any kind of trauma, it's like, it's don't talk about it, anybody. Don't let it go outside the family. Put it under the carpet. You don't talk about it. You just keep everything within the family, and life just goes on. And I think we have that in a lot of communities.
And what I noticed is that, when dealing with trauma in particular, like myself and my wife, we both have psychology knowledge. We have master's degrees in psychology, both of us. It's just we don't practice it at all. We choose different careers, but we have the knowledge. And sometimes we look at certain things we do, and we realize that those are childhood traumas. Now, this is for someone who knows about it, but there are so many people who are catched in by the traumas, and they just can't get over it. So this would be the type of people you are working with.
Yeah. Absolutely. So a lot of the work I do it's not always, but predominantly childhood traumas that are affecting people in their current adult life. But it's not exclusively that. It can be people that have experiences, but predominantly a lot of the work it is that. And our childhood experience determine us, don't they? They make us, like all experiences make us who we are. But in particular, if we look at our developmental stages as a child, that gets interrupted when there's a trauma. And almost there can be a delay in developmental growth. But nobody knows that. We don't know this at the time, do we? Nobody knows that. It just plays out later on in life and as an adult, I guess.
After, let me, this is like, I'm going to use this as an example. We've, like after my parents divorced, we moved, my mom didn't have money to buy an apartment in a good area. So we moved from a good area to an area where she could afford an apartment for us to stay. And just beside where we lived, it was a boys' home placement. I don't know how it's called in English. The boys who were left without families, orphanage, a boys' orphanage.
Yeah.
It was just beside us, and obviously we've made friends with them, and one of my friends who lived in the orphanage for a long time, he got married with a girl who comes from a normal family. I'm going to use normal family term for this example. And after marriage, he used to buy Coca-Cola and Fanta and all kinds of juices, and he were not allowing her to drink. And now this is funny, but it's not funny at the end, because he was like, his mentality was, you had access to all those in your childhood, and you had enough. I didn't have any, and now it's my turn to have them. But this is just a simple example of childhood trauma that's carrying on the adult life. What would be the most common traumas people have I don't know,
Yeah.
from your work by now, can you share any? Maybe, it will help someone who is going to listen.
Yeah, I mean, I work across the board with so maybe it might be helpful to share some of the work I do. So I work with trauma broadly, and
Mm.
it's quite an umbrella term, isn't it? It's quite a wide
Yeah.
term, trauma. So trauma could be anything because everybody's experience is unique to them.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever somebody experiences, it might be, I never think one trauma is as little than, as is not as a bad experience to the next one, because it depends on the individual. So your experience of a traumatic event might be different from mine.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is unique. So I always look at the individual and say, that is traumatic for you. Now, it might not be trauma. Like, for example, I'm just using this. I remember, so a lot of the cases I dealt with very early on in my career was like sort of people who'd lost families that had
Mm-hmm.
members of their family that had completed suicide. So they're
Mm-hmm.
traumatic experiences. But I'd also worked with people that had some kind of experiences in sort of car accidents, or some kind of experience around witnessing some kind of
Mm.
violent act. Or and what I concentrate on, what my kind of area of interest is the whole area around sexual trauma. So they're all the kind of traumas that I would work with. But when somebody comes to me, because I also coach, Bogdan, so I guess I'm a qualified psychotherapist, I'm a clinical consultant, and I'm a qualified coach as well. So it's really interesting how my work it's just transpired. It wasn't planned like this. But since I got my coaching qualification, people would come to me for coaching. And
Mm-hmm.
what would happen is that actually they present, and and as you know, coaching's very different. Coaching's
Mm-hmm.
very action focused, it's succinct, it's to the point. It's like, what is your action plan? What are your goals? So I would have clients coming to me for coaching, but actually it's been masked. Some of the things that they couldn't progress in life with were
Mm.
masked with some things that they hadn't dealt with.
Mm.
So what I then do is I switch contracts. I go from coaching into then a therapeutic contract. And what we then do is we start working therapeutically at the issue, the core issue that's underlying why somebody can't progress. Now, somebody might just say, oh, it's lack of motivation, it's procrastination, it's, that whole thing. But actually, there may be something really underlying that only that individual knows what it is. So that's something that I switch to, is then looking at therapy and looking at the core. And because you've built a relationship, it almost works beautifully well. So that's one aspect. But then on the other side, somebody could come to me for a therapy session and they want therapy, but actually they work towards, the incident that they want to work through, or they work through their traumas. And they stay with me to a maintenance level, which is absolutely great because I've worked through everything, but they stay with me then to coach, for me to support them, to coach them. And how that works is actually, it's beautiful to witness that whole process, because what happens is you see somebody coming in that has got really so low confidence, low self-worth, low self-esteem, and then you see their journey, and actually they're now in this position to be coach, of thinking, I can do anything I want to do. So that's how I kind of work. It works from, right, therapy to coaching, coaching to therapy, and I interchange between the two. So it's a beautiful process. Either way, whatever process it is, it's just really, really beautiful to watch and be part of. It's a privilege actually to be part of.
Yeah, because you change lives.
Yeah,
Um,
really.
how open are people to share their traumas, their experiences?
Yeah.
Um, is it, I don't know, will they be very open, or you will have to push them to the limits to share that experience with you so you
Yeah.
can help them?
That's a great question, Bogdan, a really good question actually, because when I meet somebody for the initial consultation, and I'll tell you my perspective, but I also train this to people that are training. So when I meet somebody for the first consultation, it's all right me saying I can work with you, but
Mm,
I always ask them, do you think you could work with me? Because what's really important is that there has to be a connection.
mm-hmm,
You've got to have an initial connection with an individual to work with them. Because see, if you don't have that connection, how are you going to share your inner secrets almost? How are you going to share some of the things you've never told anybody? So you've got to have that initial connection. So I believe, and I'll say to anybody accessing therapy or even coaching, if you think about it, coaching's very similar. You've got to make sure you connect with the person. And I will always say I might not be the right person for you. And you need to decide that. And I always say to individuals, go away and think about it. Because, to share something you've never shared, you've got to think, you know, you've got to feel comfortable doing that. You've got to be able to trust that the person
mm,
listening is going to be able to hold that space. You've got to feel that the person is coming from a genuine place. So all of these things really matter in terms of that connection and that relationship. So I mean, I'm really privileged. I'm really grateful to hear some of the stories I hear because some people, some of my clients have held these stories for like 20, 30 years and they've never told anybody.
mm.
So you can imagine, how much that's had a grasp on their life because they've had this one thing that they've just not been able to share. So yeah, people are very open once that relationship builds. People feel comfortable and people feel that they're listened to and they feel supported. So they do really open up. They will share their experiences. And that's because the person listening is genuine and they want to and they care and they want to make a difference. So people do open up.
When people come to you, they come because they realize they have something that stops them to go forward,
Yeah.
or I don't know, or are they different other reasons? It's just like I'm.
Yeah. So usually people know what they want to work with, usually,
Usually, okay.
but they'll test it first. They'll come to me and they might present with something else. They might say, "Oh, I've got really bad anxiety."
Mm,
Okay. And it's like, let's work with the anxiety. But they might not say what the core is of
mhm,
where that originated from. So that's the piece of work. So once you start working with them, because anxiety is a symptom, like anxiety, panic attacks. I always think they're symptoms of something. There's a core to that. What is the reason behind that? Has it been an experience? What has been the experience that you're now living with these? So quite often they'll come with anxiety or panic attacks, or somebody might label themselves as being depressed. They've Googled it and
yeah.
Dr. Google has told them these are the symptoms and they've said, I've got an anxiety disorder. Well, no. It's like, have you been diagnosed by that? And no,
uh,
it's just like, I know I have it. So sometimes that's what individuals will come to me with is that actually this is what's happening, this is what's presenting, and but when you really dig deeper, there's a whole lot of other stuff that's going on. And it could be relationship related, it could be like past experiences related, historical, sibling relation, just a variety of different. It could be a whole array of things, but there's usually something core. Because the thing is, Bogdan, our body holds a score. I always describe it as whenever we have a traumatic experience, our mind may tell us to forget it. And I know you'll
mhm.
know this because our mind is saying, let's progress, let's do well in our business, let's do well in our personal life, let's just keep going, let's keep going. But actually, our body is holding it. Our body. So when somebody says, "Oh, I feel, anxiety," or I feel when something like this happens, they get a trigger of something, they react to it. It's because the body's holding that trauma, and that's what needs released. Is some of that work.
Yeah, I'm trying to train my brain every day for certain things to get
Yeah,
to
yeah.
get over them. But sometimes the
Yeah.
subconscious is just, it's a
Yeah.
killer. Um,
Well, that's it. And the thing is that our brain is such a powerful tool as well, isn't it? Because it's phenomenal what our brain can do. But actually, see, when your body is telling you no, your body, if when you can't move your body, your brain can't do it. What's your brain going to do at that point? Because physically, you're almost, I can say even the word paralyzed because of all the trauma that you maybe hold in your body. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think I always say this is really important. This is why it's really important. I feel that, and I guess this is going on to my book and the purpose of the book, but I feel it's really important that everybody has access to a therapeutic space.
mm,
Because if you've not had access to it, you won't know what it's like. It's a space that you can just be. It's a space that you can tell all you want to say. You're not going to be judged. You're
mm.
just speaking what you can't say in other forums or other areas of your life. And that's why sometimes it's better. We say, oh, go and talk to family, go and talk to friends. Sometimes we can't talk to family and friends because, we
Yeah.
don't want to, we want to protect family. We don't want to tell them everything, whereas when you're talking to a stranger and a professional, you can just be. Yeah. They're trained to listen.
Before we go to the book, I have a question.
Okay.
And I was holding it, but I have to ask it. Usually, who is, I don't know, from your clients, usually, uh, who are more open to therapy, men or women? Uh, I would guess women because they are more emotional. But I'm just out of curiosity, how
Yeah.
open are men to come to therapy or to look for help? Because there are so many men out there who are in trouble, and maybe because of their ego or because other reasons, they are just keeping it inside. Um,
I love your questions, Bogdan, because that's another really great question. So predominantly, I would have said over the years, majority of my clients have been women over the
okay.
years. I do see it changing now.
Oh.
Um, Especially culturally, if I think about my own culture, men, it was like, no way, like men would not even be heard of. It's regarded as a weakness. It's regarded as you can't cope. But traditionally, you would n never ever see, especially somebody from my community, going into therapy. However, I do think things are shifting. I absolutely do, because I would say if I look at my practice just now, it's probably, I wouldn't say it's half and half, but it's a lot more than it used to be.
Mm.
So I think men are becoming a bit more open to accessing therapy than they ever were. I
Wi-
absolutely do.
Will this be education? Maybe, I don't know, access to more information be one of the reasons? I don't know, I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Because where I'm
No.
coming from, men is men and the
Oh,
woman, they don't
yeah.
really have, well, it's changing now because of
Yeah.
the, yeah, European Union, uh, inclusion, all that stuff. Um, we can see a shift, but I was just very, very curious to see how open
Yeah.
are men now. Um,
I think we're getting there. I think it's a multitude of things, Bogdan, around education. I think acceptance. I think
mm,
people are now in a space where they really want to make a difference in their lives as progression. So I work with a lot of business owners, a lot of directors, CEOs. I work with a lot of people in quite high-powered positions. Now, for a man to be in that position and to openly say they have an issue wouldn't have been heard of
Yeah.
because they are seen as this powerful figure.
Mm-hmm.
But I really do think it's changing.
I'm trying to think like so let's say half of my life I lived in Eastern European, which is a
Yeah.
totally different mentality, totally different mindset. Everything is different from Ireland or this part of the world, right? But one of the key social cultural differences, let's say in 2025, is that in Eastern Europe, for example, people still do care what other individuals think about them. In particular, like in the city side, not really. But if you go countryside, it is very important what your neighbors or what the community believe about yourself in the village. So now we see more people coming from the village to education in the city, and then it's a shift on mentality and maybe a cultural shift where, like in Ireland, I don't really care. I've changed my mentality now. Even one which is not trauma, but it's still something that people do. For example, they do care very, very much of how clean the house is. If someone comes into the house, it has to be spotless. So they are the servants of the house, and they can't leave anymore because every single minute they have to make sure the house is clean. So coming to Ireland, I understand well, like culturally, when I saw the first, it was a woman in the airport in pajamas. Jesus, like in Eastern Europe, you don't leave the house if you are not spotless.
No. Yeah.
Even for shopping, you know what I mean? So for me, it was like, what's going on here? Like, so will this be one of the reasons? It might be one of the reasons in shifting men's mindset. I don't know. I'm just speaking loud now.
Yeah, well, it's considered especially in smaller communities. Definitely not in my community. Is the man is the stronger one? The man is the one that looks after the family. The man is this. So therefore, he's got no emotions. He should just get on with it. He's seen to be that. And I guess just to add to this conversation, because if I think about, so I'm based in Scotland, and at one time, because I've been doing this for decades now, at one time I was the only Punjabi speaking therapist in Scotland.
Oh, okay.
And I did a lot of my work in Punjabi. So because I have that cultural context, you can just imagine around confidentiality. I mean, we accept confidentiality, but there's confidentiality and there's confidentiality. And one of the questions I always used to get asked is, how confidential is this? Because people talk, professionals talk. So how do I know that you won't talk about me in a community? Because in a smaller community, like everybody knows me, right? So how do I know you won't talk? So these are the kind of questions I used to have asked of me. And that's one thing I pride myself on, is that it's confidentiality is tight. There's no leeway. Like, I'm contracting with you to work with you in a professional capacity as a client and a professional. Therefore, anything that we talk about will not be shared. So I met a lot of my clients in community settings. So I would always have an agreement of, I will never approach you. If you want to come up and say to me hello, I'll respond and be civil, but there is nothing to say that I work with you. There'll be nothing at all that will determine that I work with you. So that was one of my biggest, it was actually quite a hurdle to get over. But until I built my reputation up, that people started to trust that
Mm.
actually, people would talk in amongst themselves, oh, she works with me and she works with me. And oh gosh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. And so that's how it kind of the word of mouth. So a lot of my work is word of mouth because
Mm.
people trust me in my area, especially in the community around, you have my word. Because I know how important it is for somebody to make that first step to access therapy. It's massive. Just to even take that first step to go and sit in front of somebody and talk to somebody. It's daunting. So why would I want to hinder that in any way? So I've built my reputation up from that, especially here in Scotland. It's and like you're saying, when you go in different areas, people don't know you, people, so it doesn't. But when you're in a small community, it really matters. It really does matter.
Um, you wrote a book.
Yes,
Now, this is a special book.
it is a very
Can
special
you
book.
can you share with us um, what are the most interesting topics in the book? Who is the
Well,
book for? Is the book for let's say for regular
yeah.
people? Is the book for professionals? First of all, who is the book for? And then,
So let me tell you a bit. There's a bit of a funny story about the book, but yeah, it's for general readers out there that are interested in mental health. It's people that are curious around
mm,
so it's a therapist's perspective of when therapy goes wrong, because that's the name of the book,
oh,
When Therapy
okay,
Goes Wrong. Right? That's the book there.
uh,
There we
on
go.
the chest. Yeah, that's it. When therapy
Uh-huh.
goes wrong.
When Therapy
Super.
Goes Wrong, Learning from Challenges, Improving Practice. So So it was really interesting how it came about, Bogdan, because um, somebody came up to me and said, you've been a therapist for years. You must get it right all the time." And I thought, really? I'm human. I'm a therapist, but I am human. And I thought, I've got it wrong. Many a time I've got it wrong. And so that's where the title came from, When Therapy Goes Wrong. And then I sat on it for ages. I just sat on it for years. But then I had it on my, you know how you have a bucket list, and on my bucket
Yeah,
list was
yeah.
write a book.
Oh,
So then
okay.
I thought, well, that's the book, right? So anyway, I started writing it. And when I started writing it, what happened was, um, there's a few times where, yeah, I've not got it right. And so as therapists, for part of our registration, we have to have a clinical supervisor, and we have to see a clinical supervisor every month who kind of, who supports us in our work. So I knew that so I am also a clinical supervisor. So I supervise a lot of therapists. So I know I've got a lot of stories that other therapists have told me and I've supported them with. So then what happened was I thought, I've started writing my chapter, which my chapter's not in the book, by the way. So there's going to be a sequel. So what had happened was I just put it out to some of my therapists that I supervise and some friends, and I had said, do you want to collaborate in a book?
Mm.
And of course, oh my goodness, everybody responded and said, what a great idea. Yes, we'd love to. So then what happened was I couldn't have, I mean, it could have been a 50 chapter book, but I couldn't have 50 chapters, could I? So I had to contain it to, and I chose 13 chapters because 13 is my lucky number. It's the day, my birth date as well, and 13 I regard as very lucky. And so I chose 13 as how many chapters I was going to have. So the first 13 people that got back to me, they're the people that are in the book.
Wow.
So there's lots
So
of
now
other
you
people
have so now you have enough content for the second
for
one.
another book. So I've got enough content for another book. But so the first 13 people that got back to me, I just said, right, okay, let's collaborate. Let's do, because part of what I want to do is I want to, some of the therapists in the book are phenomenal therapists. In fact, some of them are not writers. And what I ended up doing was helping them and supporting them and coach them into writing the chapter. And there's something about support, isn't there, Bogdan? There's
Mm.
something about somebody believing that they can do something, and I advocate for that. So that's how the chapters were born. And I'm not going to give anything away because they are all worth reading because they're all very unique. They're written with an individual style. I didn't change any of the writing because that was important to me. I had pitched to a lot of publishers, and one of the things that they wanted me to do was to get a publisher was they wanted me to be consistent with the writing. And I didn't want that. I said, no,
Mm.
I said, this is unique to the therapist that's writing it. So I want this to be the way it is. I don't want it to be
Alter it.
yeah, I don't want to change it. So you can get a feel of each therapist and each therapist style. And so I haven't changed the way they've written. It's just all beautiful. Every chapter is phenomenal and beautiful. And then at the end, there's been reflections of what went wrong and my reflections of what could have been done differently. And then right at the end, I do some chapters on reflecting around clinical supervision and what that means. So that's how the book got born. That was how it was born. And of course, I just want to advocate for all the therapists that are in the book. They've all got their own they've got their own practice details in it. People can reach out to them individually, and I want to advocate and support them in that as well.
Super. That sounds amazing. Challenges. We speak about challenges. Can you share one of the biggest challenges you had and how did you manage to overcome it?
I definitely think the transition from being employed in the NHS and then transitioning into full-time clinical practice was definitely a challenge. It took me about a year and a half to make that decision.
Wow.
And because if you think about it, I had a really good salary, I had a great pension, and I was leaving all that behind. I had a really fantastic job. I was leaving it all behind to go self-employed. And that was scary.
What was
Yeah.
the trigger though to make
I'll
the
tell you
move?
what the trigger was. I exactly know, that one thing that makes your mind up was when I had a client sitting in front of me and said to me, I've been on the waiting list for 3.5 years, and this is me just getting seen. And I thought, no, there's got to be a better way of supporting people with their psychological well-being. And that was it for me. I thought, because it's not anybody's fault. It's just the
Yeah, I
demand is
understand.
great.
Yeah.
The demand is great. Waiting lists are high. So I endeavor to get back to people within 24 hours now in my practice. And if I can't help, I will put them in touch with somebody that can. So I endeavor to do that. And that's one of my driving forces behind is that everybody should be able to have psychological help when they need it. And actually, this has become a bit of a purpose of the book now because what's happened is the purpose has become that everybody should be able to have that experience of having this therapeutic space. Everybody should have access to some kind of psychological help without having to wait years and years for it. So there's lots of people across the country that are doing so much phenomenal work. And yeah, it's like therapy should be accessible. People shouldn't have to suffer. We break a leg, we go to A&E, we get seen to, and physical elements we get seen to straight away, don't we? But psychological stuff we don't have access to that.
Because you can't see them. You can't
No.
see how broke a person is inside.
You can. And it's only when the person's sitting in front of you and they're desperate for help and you see how broken and you see the impact it's had on their life, not just on their life, but their family, their extended family. You can see the impact it's had, their friendships, and it's just awful it's awful to watch, but it's a privilege to be part of it, to support them, to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
I think it's one of the most, the most fulfilled jobs you can have.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, at the end of the day, when you see you helped someone, you go home, you look back and you say, oh, I helped this person. The
Yeah.
the feeling,
Or the
it's
feeling is just, yeah, you can't put a price on that feeling. Or
no.
when somebody says, somebody just yesterday, somebody said, you've made such a difference to my life. You just can't. And I think, oh, right, I've done what I set out to be, is make a difference in your life. Or somebody else said, somebody had sent me a thank you card to say, if I hadn't seen you at the time I seen you, I probably wouldn't be here. So yeah, I'm so grateful for what I do, and I'm so grateful with everybody that works with me, that I endeavor to make a difference in people's lives. Yeah, absolutely.
What's more interesting is that as entrepreneurs, like, well, we offer different services, but whatever we do because we want to help others at the end of the day. Um, so if whatever we sell doesn't do that at the end of the day,
Yeah,
uh, you're in the wrong side then.
absolutely. Yeah. And
Okay.
I know also, and I know from an entrepreneurial point of view, but it's almost like I want to give back as well. So I do pro bono work as well for some charities. There's individuals that I'll do some work with, because it's about giving back as well, isn't it? It's like what a difference I can make in other areas, and how I can give back too. So I do a lot of that work as well, which I'm grateful as well to do.
Book writer, professional psychotherapist,
Mhm.
well-known person now. What would be your advice for, I don't know, a young entrepreneur or a young person or someone who is at the beginning of their journey? What would be your entrepreneurial advice to them?
Follow your passion. Absolutely follow your passion. If you think about where I was in terms of business management, and manufacturing, it's like that was, there was something more for me. And actually, I knew there was something more. And so I would say to anybody, follow your heart, follow your passion, and make sure you have fun on the way and you enjoy it. Because, yeah, it's like, this doesn't feel like work for me. When it doesn't feel like work, and when you're making a difference in people's lives, surely that's got to be a good thing. It surely has to be a good thing.
For and the last question for today is, you already said, like you said at the beginning, that you don't know any funny stories, but funny enough, you started, what's funny? How we wrote the book. So you see, you've already
Yeah,
shared the funny, you've
I've
already
shared a
shared
couple. Yeah,
a
absolutely.
couple of funny
And
things.
even when I went to that evening class, it was like I went to do pottery or art class or something like that. That's what I was looking for, and it was just completely different. It's like that's not what I was looking for. Yeah, it was really interesting. A hobby. I was looking for a hobby.
What's even more interesting is how I don't believe in mistakes.
Mm,
Like you, or by I don't know. You like something happened. I think everything has a purpose in life. Um,
yeah,
like even your story is funny because you went to look for something like for poetry or
yeah,
arts or something, and you've ended in such a different path.
mm,
Um, so that's funny.
absolutely. Yeah,
It's very interesting how being at the right moment in the right
mm,
place can change your
yeah,
life, and
absolutely.
in the same time can change the lives of so many people, because what you do now, you are disrupting people, you change their lives, you are changing their path, and it's amazing. Now, if someone is curious to see when therapy goes wrong,
Mhm.
how they can buy the book?
Yeah, you can go directly to my website. You can go to the Whatswhat website as well, Bogdan. Am I right in saying
You
that?
can, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the
Uh,
Whatswhat website. Yeah, and you'll just under my name, you can find it on my website, and yeah, you can buy it from there. Yeah.
Now, if you liked what Satinder do, and I don't know if at any point in your life you think you need help, we are going to add the links to her
Hmm.
socials, her contact details at the end of this video, so you'll be able, and it's going to be in all the comments, so you can contact her and I don't know, take the help and support you need to go forward in your life and overcome
Absolutely.
challenges and whatever it stays in your way.
Yeah.
Satinder, I want to thank you very much for taking the time for this short interview.
Thank you.
I was actually looking, I was very, very curious and I was keen for this interview because what you do, it's different, and it supports so many people.
Absolutely.
So thank you for what you're doing. Please continue for as long as you can.
Thank you. Thank you as well, Bogdan, for this opportunity.
And
And I loved your questions. They were really good questions.
well, I was just going through the flow, making sure
Yeah.
we touch some of the things, because we don't, like in those kind of interviews, I'm not looking to go deep in what we do, because some of people, they want to know how they can get help, not on the technical stuff. For the technical stuff, everyone, you can contact Satinder for the technical stuff, and she is going to share everything with you. So thank you again for taking your time. For everyone else, I hope you are going to enjoy this episode. And as I said, if you are looking for any kind of therapy, she's here. You will be able to buy the book, book a session with Satinder, or even follow up on her socials just to stay tuned with what she's doing.
Absolutely. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you, and see you on the next episode.